Cheers. And that's how you bury it.
Cool. I wasn't thinking. I said I went and brought up all the MIDV pages. I thought, how the fuck am I going to do that now if I've got you on here, like fucking flicking around the phone? But anyway, well, bullshit.
Well, I mean, other than setting up the camera and staying in the shot, right? You don't need to look at the camera, but yeah, it's a hard habit to break, right?
Yeah. I'll keep the hard part is looking at you, and I do this all the time. I start looking at myself, which anybody looking on the camera, what the fuck are you looking at?
Well, my interview with Alex Ponovich, I'm sure my interview with Alex Ponovich, it looks like I'm looking at the camera, which isn't looking at him when you're looking at the recording, right?
I was going to incorporate beer into this. I'm like, today I'm drinking, because there's a guy, what the hell they do? It's beers and brew, or they do horror movie reviews and brews.
Oh yeah.
And then there was another one that I saw it was the trifecta. It was that and something else.
Funny.
And I can't remember what the hell the other something else was. So
yeah, you're allowed to do it on you're allowed to do it, like, you know, broadcast wise. You're just not supposed to be shammered on it.
And shit-faced, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh no, it's a tasting. I heard they got guys now that do it on the radio. They do this bro thing in the morning, and the one guy's the wrestler, so he has his 90s wrestler that he does.
Oh yeah.
And the other guy does a whiskey thing, and I'm like, he's fucking tasting whiskey at like 9:30, 9 in the morning. I'm like, ooh. I'm hoping he's taking those notes and sharing it afterwards, because you know, I can still taste the toothpaste. I'm like, oh fuck, drinking whiskey first thing in the morning, especially on an empty stomach, would be brutal. I taste notes of acidity, of vomit, a little bit of stomach acid in there.
It's a rich bouquet.
The rich and avid potpourri of flavors.
Well, the
mint
went on that 4-hour podcast there, and as I'm sitting down at 10 o'clock, right, I can see in the background all he's got is liquor, right? I mean, there's a coffee machine, but all he's got is scotch and shit. And I'm like, I hope he doesn't. And then at about noon, well, how about we have? I was like, well, I'm only having one, and I'm talking for another 2 hours, so it'll be okay.
Yeah. One an hour if I have to go anywhere. The only thing is, I still stand by what you and I used to do. Is that if we're gonna make lunch, that's great. I could do 2 beer. I can't do one. I have to have 2 beers, because if I have 1 beer, I'll just be so groggy I'll fall asleep. But if I have 2, I'm good. If I have more than 2, then I'm fucking like I'm rocking. You gonna go again? Yeah, I'm gonna go again. We're there for the fucking. We're there all day.
Yeah. I got a coffee water boiler. I'm just gonna grab that.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I thought I had an energy drink too. I thought we were ready to roll. Oh well.
Yep. No. All good. Hey, so did you end up watching the right version of Stitches?
No, I haven't got around to that yet.
Okay.
I did the 4 we were lining.
So we got Grim Reaper, which is Anthropophagus, which is the Greek word for basically cannibalism.
Okay.
So, but they called it Cream Reaper. I saw another video store had the same cover art on it. It was called Cave of the Living Dead. There's another version of it. Again, it's been heavily edited. The version that you saw when they take the fetus, that was a fucking stomach churner, man. But it's a skinned rabbit, right? But when they took it out of there and it was in the bag and all that, I'm just like, fuck. That's probably one of the most severe horror moments I think I've seen. You know, that was really graphic.
In Grim Reaper.
Yeah, in Grim Reaper. Anthropophagus. Lifeforce, great shit. I hadn't seen that for years. Dead Mine. Did you watch the Asian HBO one?
Yep. I think, well, it appears to be. Yep.
Yeah, people shit all over. I didn't think it was that bad. I didn't think it was very good. I thought it was just like chewing gum for my eyes.
Yep.
Incubus, you watched the right one of that.
Yep.
John Cassavettes fucking mashing that kid's head and fucking rubbing it and so forth. I'm like, God, you can't say anything to him. He's John Cassavettes, man. What the fuck's he gonna? Well, I'm John. Well, get the fuck off the set. I'm not talking to you. And then children shouldn't. The coolest part, Incubus. I'm seeing the movie trailers in the movie theater, and there's the poster for children shouldn't play with dead things in there. I'm like, okay, that's what we're leading into for that one. So
Nice.
And that was Bob Clark's poor man's version of Night of the Living Dead, essentially.
Yep. Well, the second half of it for sure.
Yeah.
Which one do you want to jump into first?
I've got it in order. So I said, let's lead off with Eastman. We'll go Grim Reaper.
Back to the
Anthropophagus.
Right. Well, it's the George Eastman hour.
The George Eastman. A very George Eastman day to you.
Well, this one, I mean, it's billed as the sequel to the one we saw the other day. Absurd.
This one, yeah, but this one was made first.
Yeah, looks like Missing in Action 2. I don't know how that works, or maybe,
yeah. So I think,
I should rephrase. Maybe we got to reverse it. Absurd is the sequel to Grim Reaper.
Yeah, it would just be the follow up to it, really. I mean, I guess I'm trying to figure out. They don't explain any of the science and
sequel. Yeah.
In Absurd, they just said, this guy's going to be. They could have done something like that in the movie and just said, this guy. But the way they told it in Grim Reaper, we're going to say Grim Reaper instead of Anthropophagus, or the flick it is called, just because it's easier. Which is the Greek word for cannibalism, human being eating human flesh, what they call it, and of course Greek terminology. So basically. It's a story about a sailor lost at sea, and of course they reverse to the old famous thing about the lifeboat. What do you do when you're starving to death on the boat? Ends up eating the kid, and I guess he got a taste for it. Came back to the island and starts hunting anything that's on the island. So you get a crew in there that's shipwrecked on the island. What's going on there? And of course they discover George Eastman is back at it again as, of course, psychotic zombie, whatever. The one thing you can say about, of course, this is directed again by Joe D'Amato. One thing you can say about these Italian films, and this almost goes across the entire gamut, is that the locations and the scenery that they got are like second to none. Like you can't, like this makes it's almost like a Chamber of Commerce like funded these and said, hey, we're going to show the beautiful shots. We're going to get the island JCs to get a little bit of a plug here. We're going to throw some money your way, and you're going to show this, that, the other thing. Not the big landscapes, but just the countryside, like amazing stuff. Like, well,
here's walk by some ruins, and okay, we'll cut that into the anecdotal, right?
They're just hoping you don't focus on the acting, right?
Yeah,
but
other
than that, the gore effects in this one were horrifying. There is the famous scene in this one where, of course, there's a pregnant woman in there, and then George Eastman's character basically rips out the baby out of her in its sack and eats it, takes a bite out of it. Which, I'm pretty hardcore, but that turned my stomach because it was so. It turned out it was a skinned rabbit, as what they're saying, of course, because was that real? Yeah. But yeah, no, turning your stomach kind of stuff. If you're a real gore aficionado, that would probably be the thing I'd say that you're probably tuned in to watch. But again, not much difference between Eastman's character in this one and the other one. But I mean, he's George Eastman. He's 6'8" and just a huge dude.
Well, in this one, I don't like. I mean, compared to the last one, and then I guess most of what we're going to call George Eastman movies, he's not in this one very much certainly compared to the last one.
No, his character comes back and forth, which I kind of like more because you kind of get tired of. Again, like last week, I said that you're taking the monster out of the closet. Once you're shining light on the monster's not nearly as scary, right?
Yeah. So barrels instead of the shark, right?
Exactly. So it works a lot more in here. Again, with most of these Italian movies, I found the endings are always really lame. They're always a letdown. You're always expecting, we as North American audiences are expecting the big, the last guy to be the toughest guy to fight. And he's going to die, or he's going to win in some spectacular way. And you really don't get that. These are, if anything, these would be kind of like more real to life. You just punch him in the face and he goes down in the end.
Well, to me, they're very set piecey, like Joel Schumacher was with the Batmans. Where we're gonna. I mean, it's Italian. We're gonna walk around, show some Rome, plot reveals and stuff, and then we're building up to an effect. We're building up to another. And
one thing that actually what got me with D'Amato in this film is that not a lot of nudity in this one.
No, well, and D'Amato too. I know I'm familiar with some of his stuff, right? I mean, it's funny because The Devil's Wedding Night is one where there's a guy going on about witches and sorcery and stuff, which is familiar to a local.
Witches.
Yeah, and then he directed at least 3. I'm not sure if he did the fourth one, not the fourth one, the third one. The Conan ripoffs, Ator with Miles O'Keefe.
Yeah, he did the first Ator is his,
and Blade Master is too.
Yeah, Blade Masters too. So yeah, he did a couple of those. And of course, you know, as he got older, like towards the end in the 90s and all that, I mean, everything that he did was pretty much softcore porn.
Well, yeah, same with Eastman there for a while.
Yeah, so that's what they get into, and then of course it's done, right? Like that's all, that's what they've got. So they, again, I think last week called him the evil. They called him the evil Ed Wood. But again, he gets to a point there where you have you know, the gore, and the gore starts giving away to the nudity. This one was more gore central. So if you're in that part of his lifespan, because this one's 1980, and then Observed came out in 1981. Right. 79, so there's about a year or two apart between the two of them. And again, they could have easily, like you brought up, they could have easily been sequels to each other had they just done a little more explaining on the first one, right? Well, or even tied it in on the second one, Observed, to say this guy came from a Greek island. We don't know, he washed up on shore and his blood does this, and we don't know how.
Well, I almost want to check the real, like officially when they went into production, because this, and I'll have to track Absurd again. This one's got so many slow-mo bits, rack focuses, like on characters, back from characters. It's almost like, okay, this one came out after The Shining, and all the times Kubrick does racks on Danny and then back off the twins. It's almost like in this one they do that. He does
well, and there's no doubt about it. I mean,
a lot, right? Like it's
whatever your inspiration of the time is. If you're a director and you're saying this is really selling, we're gonna have to do that. I mean, you can do it with all the Star Wars clones that came out around Star Wars. You can do it with all the Conan ripoffs that came around Conan. Well, so when you're looking at something like this, and say, I'm going to take that and put it in my film. I'm going to take that shot, or I'm going to take that the kind of sweep and do that. So,
well, and then it looked like Albert Pyun, where I know he's remaking Blade Runner 90% of the time. Every movie he makes, he's just remaking Blade Runner, right?
Well, the classic thing is what they say is every filmmaker has one film that they're trying to tell. And they may be trying to tell it over and over and over again. And you can see that in a lot of people's stuff, even writers as well. So filmmakers and writers and all that. Well, also mentioned that in this Grim Reaper, not only did Eastman actually start it, he actually co-produced and he actually co-wrote it.
Oh well.
So he's got a bunch of irons in the fire. And they actually did an update of this. I was just looking at this. They actually remade the film in 1999. And apparently, I haven't seen it, but apparently it's supposed to be way worse. There's no name you recognize in it.
Titled
but
Grim Reaper
name is just, yeah, it's called the Grim Reaper, but his or Anthropophagus.
Okay,
you know what I'm talking about.
Pythagoras.
Pythagoras, yeah. I know it's Anthropophagus. Anyway, nobody recognized. I think the IMDb, there's nobody in it, but it's funny because Eastman's name disappears off everything for that one. So he's not given anything. The story has just been given to D'Amato. So I thought that was kind of interesting. If somebody sees it, finds it, and wants to put a comment on here or where you could find it, that'd be kind of cool. So,
well, and this one too, of all the Italian flicks I've seen of this, you know, horror bent type, this is the least Italian and European of I think that I've seen anyway. That the ones that are actually Italian and spaghetti or pizza, however you want to define them. But different pace, they're a lot slower, and I don't mean just because they're you know walking around or looking at shit for no reason. But
well, my favorite is when somebody's being chased down. Movie. Yeah, my favorite is someone being chased down, aka the pregnant woman, of course. Rather than running or rather than fighting tooth and nail, because this effect has to happen, and this, of course, is a lot of gore heavy where you're doing stuff. They're just going no, and they fall back, no, like hands in the air and stuff like that. So you're going to let this person do whatever they want to you, and you're not going to defend yourself. So that's where, you know, the fantasy part comes in. Okay, we got a great effect coming here because nobody's going to let this happen. It's always a downer when it's just kind of like something like just a throat cut and nothing's happening or something like that.
Or they do the cutaway and you don't see it. Yeah.
And one thing I wish movies would do as well is that people don't die instantly when you cut their throats. You know, they're gonna either bleed out from the jugular or they're not gonna be able to get in the air, right? So that doesn't happen. I mean, I remember watching one of the Eastwood films, I think for a fistful of dollars and stuff. He runs and he cuts a guy's throat and he drops dead instantly. I remember watching Commando. Schwarzenegger cuts a guy's throat. Guy's like, and then he just lays there motionless. I'm like, I wouldn't be. Best I've ever seen. Charles Bronson in what was it? I think it was Evil That Men Do. Cut a guy, I can't remember his name. He looks like Yaphet Kotto. Cuts his throat, and of course, to go to the bed, he's enticed him to come back with him and his wife, with Jill Ireland, to have a threesome. Cuts the guy's throat, and the guy's like crawling towards him. They end up in the bathtub before he he bleeds out or he exsanguinates. He's kind of I'm like, that's one thing. That's one of those things that would have just taken the movie from, all right, you know, I'm going to give this I'm going to give this a little bit of suspension of disbelief to like, wow, that must be really what it's really like, you know?
Well, and I'm trying to think of, it's one of those ones of the magic of Hollywood where most of the times I can think of one where again, it's probably because of the ratings of it, where they cut a guy's throat and they always die instantly because they can't show the guy dying.
You can't film it, but at least they can still be rolling around on the ground or
you
something
can hear
like
them.
that. Eh? Like,
well, the one I can think
make
of
a noise. You're going to cut the guy's throat.
Yeah,
so,
the one I can think of that's really good, like the effects excellent. You don't see it coming. I mean, you kind of do. Is in Die Hard 2 when I think it's John Amos, fucking McDowell. He goes, yeah, I wish he's the one soldier that isn't with the rest of the team. He goes, I wish you were with us on that last mission. Yeah, me too. Shink, and he does it with Franco Nero right across the van from him. And then the guy, and it's a great effect, but the guy just dunked right over, as opposed to, well, no, he would be, you know.
It's so typical. It's so typical.
Before I lose to do with the actor.
I think the actor would be going with it. He'd just be turning around and saying, well, we got to move along with this. So just play dead, like you're in shock or something like that to cut your throat. But yeah, anyway, moving on from there.
Grim Reaper.
1981.
Catch it.
Actually, you know, most of these movies, like a lot of these Italian movies, like they disappear from your mind because you've seen so many of them. That one scene in the cave where he takes the baby out, that is probably will stay with me for the rest of whatever. So,
and did you see this when you were a kid, or did you see this more, you know, when you're older, or what?
I saw this probably a couple of years ago, a year or so ago. And
okay, yeah, so it's not imprinted on you, on your psyche because you saw it when you're 9 or something.
No. If it did, man, I'd probably be in an asylum somewhere. Anyway, moving on from there, next film, Lifeforce.
Yes. Space vampires.
Based on the book Space Vampires. So what's the original title, I thought. I had so much fun with this. Like, again, this is another one. I think you and I were talking earlier, is that they could do a Mystery Science Theater on this one and have a blast with this. My favorite scene early on is when they're just introducing Steve Railsback, is they're saying the ship's there, it's 150 miles long, and he puts his head up through the hatch, goes, what's 150 miles long? And I was like, zing, that's what the zinger important line is. And yeah, I got something for you, it's 150 miles long. Anyway,
right out of Don't Look Up.
Yeah, exactly. Tobe Hooper directed, and of course you can definitely see some brushstrokes from Tobe Hooper on here, especially especially with regards to the ship. And I mean, you get a lot of the Invaders from Mars stuff going on with this one as well. So I felt they're very, very similar. Great cast. Steve, you know how you make anything work or anything believable? You cast British people. British people have a way of, you got Peter Firth, and you got Patrick Stewart, and you've got Frank Finlay. You got all these classic British actors that can make anything. And all I can do when I'm watching this is think back to Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee, you know, taking on, you know, they'll take something like this giant stupid moth that turns from a woman into this giant ugly stupid moth and feeds, and they'll tell it to you like that this is what's happening in a way you go, oh, that seems plausible. Wow, you know, so it's open, rather than an American audience go, that's so stupid. But I'm watching this with belief going, if the British weren't telling me this, there'd be no way I'd be buying this. You know,
that's how Benedict Cumberbatch gets cast in things these days.
Oh, exactly. It's so like insane. Like, I'll read the stupidest on Tubi. I'll read the stupidest review for a movie. I watched one with Peter Cushing here called the Blood Moth something or other. I'm like reading the entry for it. I'm like, this sounds mentally challenged. And then you watch it and you go, but Peter Cushing's so classy, and he's so, oh, it's very, very simple how we do this, something, and if we don't, we'll all die. I'm like, oh my God, this is so happening, you know? Oh yeah. But I love the fact that this is right in the Golden Globus canon, right? And it has
this is at the height of them. Yeah, this is where they had some money.
They're throwing the huge budget at it and all the stars, right? But still, and they're throwing the British at it because that's the things that it's got going for it. Have you taken this plot and done it any other way? At that time, you'd never have heard of this film.
Oh yeah, it's. I mean, the only thing it's got going for it, it's Tobe or Hooper at his height, where he was on a run there, just like John Carpenter, where, you know, he was almost doing no wrong, and then all of a sudden the '90s hit, and all he's doing is parodies of his older and better work.
Well, the only other thing that it's really got going for it is Matilda May.
Yep.
as the naked female vampire. Like, she is just like dream worthy. All I can think of, Steve Railsback's got to be old enough to be your dad, and he's sucking face with this incredibly looking naked, who's naked throughout the entire picture.
Well, it's kind of sets the tone for the Species series a few years ago.
Yeah, exactly. In fact, I would say direct lift. Listen, if you want people to be engaged, put a naked alien in it, make it really good looking, because you're catering to, let's look at sci-fi demographics here. What was I going to say? The score with it, Henry Mancini did the score. I was going to say, when it first came up, the first thing when it came up, I'm hearing the intro for Airplane. Like,
and the London Philharmonic playing along.
Yeah, and I'm like, who did this? I'm like, Henry Mancini. I'm like, oh my god, that's hilarious.
So all kinds of money.
They have all the pieces there. I have a feeling did you ever read the book Space Vampires?
No,
me neither. I'm just curious now. I mean, I think there's definitely a lot more that can be done with it, because the movie itself, with the budget and all that, is just a train wreck that the British actors are barely and the special effects are barely keeping together. And even then, 1985, the scene where they're going into the cave and you see the spacesuits. I mean, it's something like out of a 1960s movie. They've obviously been cut and paste and just kind of moved across the screen. So I'm like, and they use the same effect for Disney's Black Hole with Anthony Perkins. So I'm like, oh, that takes me right out of it. But other than that, the rest of it, I mean, a fun romp, fun to see. I think Patrick Stewart must have had the time of his life making that movie with some of the scenes.
Well, again, same thing. He's on a run there where he's busting. He's showing up in Excalibur, and he's showing up in Dune, and he's showing up, in, bit parts before he's leading up to Star Trek, right?
He goes, "I was Hamlet," Here it is. I'm talking about spice or whatever,
all right, Cymbeline, knock it off. But man, because a lot of toys, and this one, the most surprising thing to me, I remember seeing this when it almost came out, right? So it'd be a VHS, fuzzy, on a screen this big, and then whatever. If I ever saw it on TV, it must have been a bad copy, because even the online version, it does look lush and the look of forgetting the effects in the camera, the actual presentation of it is fantastic when you got a good look of it. But it is the height of everybody ripping off Star Wars and Aliens, until it probably crescendos a Total Recall or something, right? But that was space floating by it, in the 80s.
Well, you talk about Aliens and you talk about all this stuff. I mean, Protocol and all that coming back, and everybody's so casual. Okay, let them through. I'm like, oh my god, you have no idea what's going on here. You gotta let people through. My favorite part, I remember I was telling you about this, is that who drives through a zombie apocalypse with your windows down? They're fighting people coming through the windows and all that, being very British. Excuse me, pardon me, put your hand out. No. There's very full in here. I know you're a space vampire and all.
Yeah, it reminded me of it reminds me of another movie that we're going to talk about later. But it's called Lifeforce, and I remember the trailer being all space. They leave space 20 minutes in, and they never go back, right? I mean, it's just around London, waiting for the.
One of the parts that I did enjoy is the fact that here they are in this British intelligence basement, and the only place they can put that guy is in the storage room.
And he's running around
like, don't you have a break or something, or like a windowless wall or something? No, we're gonna put him with all the toner and all that kind of good stuff. See, Bob from stores comes in. I need some toner. Oh, you're screwed now. There's a space vampire in there, and he looks pissed.
Oh yeah, and then he pulls the Palpatine electrical pull, and jeez.
Oh my god, yeah. There was some moment, like, again, overall and entertaining, but again, you get into the kind of the Dawn of the Dead where everything's coming apart, and it turns into, if the movie had gone on longer, you would have got, and they hadn't found a resolution to it, you would have got into Walking Dead territory. So basically, is where they all kind of go. But again, watch this one. I'd say the high parts on for it. Definitely the score. The direction's pretty cool on it. The effects are 1985. The story is almost incoherent at some points, but overall, I mean, it's fun, right? Especially to see Mathilda May walking around naked at 19, 20 years of age. So she is definitely, if I had a fantasy, that would definitely be it. So
I like it. There's lots of reasons I like it. It fits much like the Italian subgenre we were just talking about, and last episode too, is like Creature and like Saturn 3 and even like Dark Star, where all of a sudden after Star Wars, everybody and their dogs got a goddamn knockoff, right? Star Crash.
Well, and again, they're just looking to get
hundreds, right? Where it's just like, holy cow.
We can almost see the pitch guide for this one. Listen, we're not going to do Star Wars. However, you know, we're going to be in space. What do you think about space vampires? And you can see the guy go, I love it, Jimmy. I love it. Give it to me. You know, space. I got a book called Space Vampires. It wasn't called anything else more creative, just space vampires. I mean, what's not to love? It reminds, and it's funny that they go from this. So this is 85, 84?
85, yeah, in production 84.
So see, and that's the same year as, that's almost the same year or the year after Invasion from Mars, which was basically lifted a remake of a Twilight Zone episode, which you could say Tobe Hooper was really inspired. I know that one tanked. This one did well and then tanked because it was a terrible movie. But again, moments of brilliance, lots of fun to be had at it. If you haven't checked it out, check it out.
And I just think he made this one, and then he goes, well, I got to do a kids one, and there's Invaders from Mars, right? But
yeah, that one.
Dan Bannon wrote this, right? Or the screenplay.
Dan Bannon. I think even Dan Bannon's actually in it.
Yes, I probably cameo.
I think he's got a cameo in it. So I can't remember where.
If anybody, science fiction, he's your alien guy. He's the guy that John Roski had jerking around on Dune for 10 years, just about.
Return of the Living Dead.
Also, yeah, I'm sure we'll hit that. And then, our friends Golan and Globus are the producers on this, which greatest.
So of course, their Canada film the Weinstein is awesome. Classic 80s sci-fi, basically.
And then the only other thing I think worth mentioning, it's on the Steve Railsback journey from stuntman into obscurity, where he's in Stuntman with Peter O'Toole, and then he does Turkey Shoot, and then he's into this kind of garbage.
Yeah, and then you see him later on in life. And again, you do one iconic film, they'll bring you up, and you can put you in a bunch. I mean, he played Charles Manson in that Manson film a bunch of years ago, and then I think he's probably been in a Tarantino movie. I'm not sure if Tarantino hasn't surprised. So
I'd be shocked if he doesn't show up like Lee Horsey or something in the background or something.
Oh, Lee Horsley's awesome.
And he shows up in a couple Tarantinos, right? Yeah.
Yep. Snowy Bill. Anyway, next one, Dead Mine. Dead Mine, I can tell you the story about this one. It was very late at night, and I just wanted to turn off my mind and watch something. I didn't want to have to think and all that. Watched the trailer for this one, and of course, whoever did the editing to do the trailer did a really good job on this. It's put together by HBO Asia. So this is an HBO Asia production. Nobody I've ever heard of in it. Again, Indonesian kind of production. So basically the premise is there is an Indonesian island that has a Japanese bunker left over from World War II. These treasure hunters come to look for it, looking for this legendary gold that happens to be there. And of course, rather than we're so inundated with, these Nazi bunkers that have dead zombies in them, let's have a Japanese bunker that has dead Japanese and almost samurai in it. So that's pretty much what this is. A few little tweaks and all that actually I thought were kind of clever. Yep. But overall, it was like chewing gum for your eyes. I mean, I definitely didn't hate it. Definitely, I mean, the reviews on it are like people expecting this great story. I wasn't expecting anything, and even when you watch the trailer, you go, I'm not expecting anything when I watch this. So not expecting anything. My expectations were set perfectly to enjoy this one. And when it was over, it'll just kind of disappear from your mind. Yep. The English actor, again, here's the British guy or the Scottish guy holding things together. Best part of the whole thing, makes everything believable. Everybody else did a decent job. The American actors I thought were the worst, but
I likened it to Germans coming from the moon, and Udo Kier wasn't around, so they went with Japan, right?
Yep. So Iron Sky 3.
Oh, there's Japanese. All kinds of those. Yeah, my lord, right?
Well, I mean, I watched Outpost. Outpost, I think, was the first one that I really enjoyed. It had Richard Brake and Ray Stevenson and all that in it. And I mean, it's all the believability, and I really enjoyed that one. And then 8 million of them all came out the next day. If you had access to some Nazi paraphernalia and some military stuff, you were making that movie.
Well, and that's, I mean, I'm sure that'll come up in a few conversations. It's almost like some of these are like, we've got these sets here, these 3 or 4. Let's write something around what we got, right? I always find that these sometimes the zombie movies, or not the zombie, but the mythology is as narrow as the goddamn Highlanders. and you're either doing one of two things. They're either in a one room and they're trying to get out like Night of the Dead, or they're in an expanded set and they're trying to get out like Dawn of the Dead, or they're trying to, make friends with the zombies like Day of the Dead. That's literally, okay, those are the three concepts. And then that's me.
And the one thing that gets me is that,
or Germany or whatever, and that's what you have here. Like mine.
Yeah, and then they hire a bunch of actual real Navy SEALs to actually do the stunts, and because they know exactly what they're doing and all that. Who cares? I'm here. You're there to see. You like the journey, so you know what you're getting into when you turn it on. You're looking for the effect in these kind of movies. You're looking for the effects, and you're looking for suspension of disbelief. If you're not willing to offer any of those three, then you just got a piece of crap that no one's gonna. If you didn't enjoy making it, no one's gonna enjoy watching it. That's for sure.
Yeah,
but I mean, this one, the refreshing part of it was on a Japanese island and it wasn't Nazis. So that's the biggest. That was the biggest thing. So
or Egyptians, Well, because it smacks of one part. There does smack of that last Mummy movie there.
Oh yes. The one with Jet Li in it.
Yeah, and Maria Bello instead of Rachel Weisz there. But this one very well could have been called Cave of the Living Dead if it wasn't the working title of it at one point.
Again, expectations not too high. You're looking for something a little bit different to while away some time. You could do definitely worse than a time waster like this one. So Dead Mine, saw that one on Tubi as well. Check it out. Oh, Lifeforce was on Tubi, and Grim Reaper. These were all on Tubi. So we're kind of trying to make this accessible. Tubi, anybody can get onto Tubi. So yes, it says watch a few commercials. All right. Next one was one that I saw when I was young, when I was working in the video store and popped this one in. I think I fell asleep in front of it. And I remember thinking it was really boring at the time I was watching it. This one is called Incubus. This one stars John Cassavettes and John Ireland. I have to say that, there is some good stuff in here. Like they're trying to take it and make it really plausible. It's based on the story Incubus. This is actually Canadian production because I'm looking at the actors. I'm like, that guy's Canadian. That guy's Canadian. I didn't know John Ireland was half Canadian.
No, I don't know either.
No. But everybody else, it seems to be Canadian in it. Again, really good production values for 1980, 1981. There's just some crap where things are falling apart, and it's too bad because this could have been it was quite savage. Like when you talk about Fred the Edge, I mean, basically an incubus is there to basically procreate, so it's going to rape and murder. So the jobs, like they just basically, what made me laugh at this movie, them doing straight face, is like every second scene between John Ireland and John Cassavetes is how much sperm did you find this one? Oh, I found a lot of sperm. Because they talk about sperm, they go, oh, I see him. He went in dry on this one. I'm like, oh my God.
That's what I've got. It's John Cassavetes walking around playing detective, but he's not just a detective. He's a seaman detective, right?
Oh my God! If they could have cast Jack Klugman in this, I would have loved that.
Like how many times? Like at one point, and I watched that, but like I wasn't doing it. I was sitting there watching. Like how many times has he walked into either the morgue or he's standing above the body, and then he describes the rape as either extremely dry or extremely wet? It's got to be
extremely wet. Like, there has to be a couple of quarts of sperm here. I'm here measuring with my head. It's hard to measure with my hands. It's all over, and it's red. It's red.
And at one point, you're almost waiting for him to go, I know what I'm talking about. It's the devil, and he just winks at the camera, right? But like,
I wanted him at some point to go, yeah, that's sperm.
Yeah, just the Richard Dreyfuss scene from Jaws, right? Don't like that in here.
Thank you very much.
I just
I'm trying to get to the autopsy here, but I'm just drowning in sperm, ladies and gentlemen.
John Cassavetes, seaman PI. That's
Oh my God! But that part there, the quantity and the quality of sperm. I mean, that was every second thing. It was making me laugh. But
CSI Incubus.
I was looking at, but the way he's running around, so I never caught. Is he like this? The town's doctor? Is he a medical examiner? Like I thought, he's Quincy. So I thought Quincy, Jack Klugman in there. He's running all around. He's doing the police work.
Yeah, he's about as medical as the doctor in Halloween.
He's doing the autopsies. He's bandaging up people. He's telling people you can't leave. You sit down right now. I'm like, who the hell are you? I'm the doctor. I said, I don't give a hell who you are. I said, I'm out of here, man.
He's also the OBGYN. Yeah.
I know. Is that here's my Quincy license. I'm Quincy. Oh, well, that makes more sense. I'd sit down and go, okay, well, if you're Quincy, then I'm going to totally listen to you. So Quincy was right around the same time. So they must have watched that and they go, this character, in order to make it more exciting, we're going to make him Quincy, right? And he's going to go around to there. But again, the confidence that John Ireland and the professionals they bring to this kind of makes this movie. There's some stuff where, I mean, Cassavettes is definitely over the top, which of course, you watch Cassavetes, he's naturally, but I mean, I love watching the dude. Is going in some of these scenes, like the scene where he's got that kid by the head. He goes, "Yeah, I know you're good, kid," and all that. And then he's rubbing and he's smooshing his face and all that. Because anybody who's holding my head and doing that, I'm like, could you not do that? You know, you're really starting to creep me. I know you're John Cassavetes, and who am I? I'm actor nobody, but
it's the actor
I know
studio.
You're confidently doing this to me, so I don't know if you like my face or what, but. The ending was kind of a pow. I wasn't expecting that. Yeah. I was expecting more kind of something like Night Stalker, you know, Darren McGavin, when they finally realize who the vampire is and to track it down. So this one kind of gives you the full stop at the very end, rather than, okay, we've identified who and what it is. We're going to take after it. And then you're going to have this whole unbelievable kind of like suspension of disbelief. You're going to sit there and go, okay, can't believe this is happening. But the fact that
forgetting the title of it too, they show the whatever it is. Again, they give away the monster too early, right? I think there's a scene where the thing pulls a broad out from under the back.
Well, and they're
if you just didn't show the arms, right? Like
this thing goes into past lives, and it goes into witchcraft, and it goes into the town's history a little bit. Again, I think they could have done a better job of explaining that, especially early on, the town's history, rather than that all comes out in the last half hour of the movie. And of course, when they're in the library, you understand what the big witchcraft trial things are all about by that point. And again, it's Tubi. I could have gone up to take a leak or get a drink or something like that and missed something, but that was just something that kind of resonated with me. Overall, I thought it was a fun film.
Yep, economic, good movie. Okay movie. I like the sequence again from that era where all of a sudden, and it's not like a needle drop where they cut to a music video or they're cutting to a song playing on the radio. They literally cut to bands almost for no reason playing live in whatever scenario they're in. And then sequence in this one where I think they kill somebody at the time. But it's like, it's all of a sudden, like it reminded me of Escape from the Bronx, where all of a sudden there's a 3-piece rock band playing in the middle of nowhere. And you go, okay, works a bit, right?
But
it's funny.
Check it out on Tubi as well. It's on there. Not to be confused, there's lots of movies called Incubus. This one is called Incubus, and this is 1980 or 1981.
John Cassavetes, John Ireland.
John Cassavetes and John Ireland are the big names.
Playing a slightly religious leader yet again.
Yeah, you got Starsky and Hutch and Quincy all kind of rolled into one there. So,
and the most detective, like I say, the most detective doctor since Tom Cruise and Eyes Wide Shut.
Oh my God, yeah, this is the Quincy. But my what was neat about this film is when they're in the theater, they're showing posters of other movies, and one of the posters that they showed was "Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things." And I'm kind of like, that got a major theater release, and I remember that film. That film's Canadian as well. I remember that going to my uncle's place. We were at a family event, and that was on KCPQ, ding, ding, and with only 3 commercial breaks. And I remember it being on and watching some of the, and freaking me right out as a kid. Like, and I thought, okay, I know I've seen this, so I'm going to put it back on. And I have to say, for the micro budget, this is Bob Clark. This is the same director that did A Christmas Story and Death Dream and Porky's. Again, no longer with us, but he's the one that lends this one. And it's basically your poorer man's version of Night of the Living Dead, which a lot of movies did. This one's kind of got an interesting, I don't think I've ever seen anything like it. The story intro it is basically you have a professional theater troupe that has been, that's basically this guy. It strikes me as kind of a rich prig who's going to say, you're going to do what I can do. I want to do this ritual. So he's got a grimoire there that he's got cantations, and he just wants to go and have some fun and do this stuff. And the rest of the theater company is kind of, you know, if we want to stay hard, we got to go with this guy. And of course, he sets up practical jokes on them and so on. So just all for his own pleasure. And you know, in his being stupid and reading the incantation, he does end up raising the dead. So again, pretty for the time, like it reminded me, like a lot of the zombies remind me of like Michael Jackson zombies, which
Yeah.
Today, I mean, they look a lot more realistic than the ones that you see today that just basically they're just rotting on the spot. I like the ones that are crawling out of their age, that are like, been there for a while. I mean, I'm looking at some of the graves and go, that guy there's 100 years. You tell me there's nothing going to be but bones left after 100 years, maybe dust. He said he's getting around. He's got her in a chokehold. Like, wow.
Well, they make a clear distinction in this. Again, it's smart filmmaking considering the budget they had or didn't have. Where when he's playing jokes on them, the special effects are one thing, but then when he raises the dead for real in the movie, they do get better, right? So it's like
The most brilliant part, the dread-inducing part of the whole thing is that they dig up this one guy, Orville. And Orville's been dead since 1971. This film is 1970. He's been dead for, let's say, just about 10 years. So he wouldn't be smelling. He'd just be dry and there'd be nothing left of him anyway. I'll give him that suspension of disbelief. It looks pretty good for a corpse that old, but anyway, they pull him out and they disrespect him and all that kind of good stuff. And he becomes the corpse. And you're waiting, this incantation has been read. And yet you're waiting for this thing to come to life at any moment. And they're so up and personal. And I remember being as a kid and watching that, and the dread inducing, like, when's it going to happen? When's it going to happen? Is it going to happen now? Is it going to happen now? So it was pretty good. Light on the gore. I was actually surprised how light it was on the gore. But there was a couple of decent moments in it, especially given the micro budget and just the originality of a script when you're doing a zombie film. I mean, most zombie films today don't have that much originality. If they are, it's just basically put on a location, not an actual, we're a theater troupe, we're going to do this practical joke. It's usually like fire hall zombies, because we happen to have a fire hall in order to put it in there and we have access to fire suits, or cop zombies, or 5-2K zombies, or whatever the hell, kind of thing. And we'll put zombies in it. It'll make it original. It doesn't. But as far as it goes, and you have to think about, for the time this came out, pretty decent for a budget that was probably made up of pop bottles found in the ditch.
Oh, completely.
Seeing that the lead actor and the two of the actors were married. They're not brother and sister. I believe they were married.
Bob Clark is one of my favorite directors, and I think he's Canada's best director. For a while, I mean, good Lord, he did Black Christmas. People don't know that too.
Yep, that was his too.
And Christmas Story is his. And
Porky's, Death Dream
too. And then the one that, again, right, it's like the first one he went and had an American budget. I love it. People don't like it, but it's From the Hip with Judd Nelson.
Yes.
Cocky lawyer, and he's defending John Hurt. Those are great movies, all of those, and they're so diverse. They're as diverse as Kubrick is. And then what else? It reminded, as soon as I started, it's Scooby and the Gang. It starts with, again, people that are supposed to be teens and they're clearly in their 30s. But it reminded me so much, if you haven't seen it, Schlock by John Landis, which is his film.
Yes.
Same thing, other than Landis. Landis is clearly telling you he knows he's making a movie, whereas not so much here.
Well, and that's the perfect thing, is that you've got a bunch of these are obviously theater actors.
Yeah.
Rather than say that they're not, let's make they are. That way, all the schlockiness, all the hamminess, all the over the topness works. And
especially that lead idiot, right?
Where especially that lead idiot who's so verbose with his vocabulary and talks down to everybody, and you can just see him on a stage and going, stereotypical, but still at the same time,
he's the acting coach. Yeah.
When life gives you lemons, you make lemonade. So I said, you got a bunch of theater actors who've never done film work before. They're going to go over the top. They're probably naturally dramatic. Put them in a film like this. Say they are a theater troupe, right? That
character reminds me of the guy. He's only got one scene in Body Double, where he's the acting coach jerking the guy around when Clark Craig realizes that's who I'm gonna.
For some reason, I don't know what he said. He reminds me of John Amples. He even looks like him a bit. And I think maybe John Amples' character from Night Riders, but
Night Riders.
Played the jester. So I mean, he reminded me of him. I'm like, but this guy is like so over the top and all that. And of course, the two guys looked like they were brothers. One a heavier version of the other. But kills aren't really spectacular, but it's just I've seen the zombies like that. I thought were pretty cool. So I like
it's one of those movies.
So considering that this is the old time before unions and all that kind of good stuff, where you want to be a zombie, great. We're gonna bury you in this grave here, and you can help me go. Number 5 didn't get out of his grave. Is that number 5's dead? he lost his hair.
Spartacus.
But these guys are literally crawling out of the dirt, and thank God they only buried him about 6 inches. But
The competency is there, though. It's a good movie that way, where you see
it is. You can definitely see the bones of it. It holds its own. You're going to be a lot more gracious with it than something that's got a wicked budget and lots of special effects. So I'd have to say, this. I mean, I enjoyed this film more than I enjoyed Dead Mine. It probably had 4,000 times the budget and all that. But this one just had, for its time, again, taking that into consideration, a little more originality to it. And again, it looks like they had fun making it.
Yeah, competency is there. Scooby and the Gang, the first half. The first hour, though, like, man, it reminded me, because they're just walking around talking. It reminded me of the Eugene Levy and Andrea Martin movie. It's Cannibal Girls, where they're walking around Windsor, right? And it's like, okay, trying to get their car fixed. And then, but yeah, you could start this at minute 60 and just watch the last 35, and you haven't missed a thing, right, as far as what's going to happen.
Other than them trying to develop the character, your dislike for the lead character, some of the character development.
There's a point where the zombies take the girl from the house, and every single other character runs away. It's great.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. And reading his character, I'm like, you can have her. I'm gone, and I'm going to run upstairs because that's where I'm safe.
And no, it's a great movie. Reminded me of Barb Clark. I'm going to watch some of the. Certainly, I just saw Black Christmas, but I'm going to watch From the Hip again for sure. I think he did one with Shadow Stevens too later.
Tracks.
Yeah, or Loose Cannons, maybe.
Loose Cannons was Eugene Levy was Dan Aykroyd and Gene Hackman.
Was it Gene Hackman? Okay, or Dan Aykroyd. There we go. But no, it's a good. I like Bob Clark. Good movie. Yeah.
So of the 5 movies this week, if you had to recommend one of them, you say somebody this is worth watching, what would you say?
If you're familiar with movies, I'd suggest, and you haven't seen any of these, but you're familiar with movies and you're well viewed, I would say watch Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things. If you're less endowed film-wise, I'd go with Lifeforce.
Actually, I was going to say the same too. So
there we go.
Check them all out. Of course, feel free to disagree or agree or tell us we know what we're talking about, whatever. But again, we did some damage to our brains watching these, and we think everybody should.
Anything else happening?
No, we lost Meatloaf and we lost Louis Anderson today. So
that's right.
That sucks. So I met Meatloaf 2 years ago at Hex Fest, and
is that right?
Yeah, I got chance to talk to him for a while, and I was actually kind of his bodyguard. I got to take him to the stage and all that. He had fallen earlier that year, and he was in pretty bad shape, so he was limping all over this place. But so another victim of COVID, but really nice man, very friendly. He stopped and talked to everybody, so a real gentleman. Got to spend a couple of days with him and really enjoyed him. Louis Anderson I never met, but I always remember the cartoon with Louis. Yeah, that's the one that I always remember. I remember seeing, I think he was on Star Search or something like that, but I remember seeing him as young stand-up. And then, he had that cartoon show, but I never, he's one of those people that I haven't seen in ages. So, yeah, he's only 68 years old. And of course, Meatloaf's only 74, so.
Meatloaf has a film career. He worked with Fincher and Rocky Horror and a bunch of other, Patrick Swayze and Black Dog, I do believe.
Black Dog, yeah, with Randy Travis.
But Louis, bringing it back to John Amos, he was the white guy working in the McDowells in America. That's right, the only thing I can think of that where he wasn't playing Louis Anderson.
That's true. Yeah. That is true. I think there was another cartoon they had called Camp Louie. It was supposed to be like Camp Candy or something like that.
Sure.
But, other than that, I know he did a lot of voiceover work. So anyway, that kind of sucks. So they go in 3. So I'm wondering what the next one's going to be. So we just lost a bunch. I mean, I'm not counting Bob Saget in that bunch because he's in the last bunch. So anyway,
Bob
next
Saget,
week we'll probably know who.
Bob Saget's passed on. Norm Macdonald's passed on. Artie Lang better be watching over his shoulder.
Yeah, exactly, man. If you had bet me that Artie Lang would have outlived all those guys, I would have taken that bet. I would have taken it at 3-1 odds too.
Oh man, the size of his nose. What do you? We don't have to. Certainly, we can just throw some titles out there, and whether we catch them all or not, I'm sure we will. But what do you suggest?
I want to do. We're talking about doing the Bronson catalog, the Death Wish 1 through 5. Yep. As they progressively get worse or better, depending on how you're looking at them. I'm actually just I'm watching a bunch of Giallo right now. So I'm watching Carol, what the heck's her name? Not Carolyn Monroe. Anyway, lost. She made
Carol Channing.
tons of these things.
Is that right?
Tons and tons of them. And I'm actually watching one right now called Knife of Ice.
Okay.
It's going to bother me now what the hell her name is. But anyway, they're all Italian, Giallo. And I had to look up pronunciation because for years I've been calling it Giallo. And I actually listened to, and again, don't ask me where the hell I got the I from, because it's Giallo, so Giallo, so Giallo. So pardon my pronunciation. Anyway, we should do definitely a week of that, and it can, if we're posting these on there and there's things people want to see. I mean, we're trying to go through all the crap that people are kind of flipping around and goes, is that any good? Is that worth seeing? Or after a while, it's the same thing. Why would the video store last so long? Everybody can watch new releases. New releases are the same no matter where you go, and everybody's got them. It's your back catalog that really diversifies you from anybody else, because you may go into places. I mean, when I had my video, I was in the video industry for, pretty much 25 years. And I'd always go look at the back catalog. Yeah, the new release is the same. Sometimes you get, little ones and two pieces that, somebody wasn't brave enough to bring in or something like that. But by and large, your back catalog, you want that. All those video stores that say I only do new releases, they never lasted that long. People want to know that they can fall back on the classic.
And people like Steve Railsback and George Eastman are not in new movies. So
that is true. Steve Railsback might be, but definitely George Eastman is retired. He's 79 years old. And
see if we can get him on here. We'll have him popping up in between us.
If George Eastman hears this, which I doubt he does, hopefully we'd love to have him on the show here.
Well, we're gonna set it. Yeah, we're gonna get a couple recorded and then start putting them out. You bet.
Sweet
things to watch. I mean, if we're keeping it on the George Eastman watch, we could always throw in the New Barbarians with
yep.
He actually's in The Barbarians too. He shows up. He's one of.
Yep, he's in with the Barbarian brothers. With
our buddy Michael Barham in there.
Yep. There's another one too. There's the one that he directed. I showed you the picture of, Metamorphosis.
Yep.
So that's him directing. So that's his one and only directorial thing. So that's another one that we could throw in on there.
And other things, again, just if people are watching and hearing us chime in, we're talking about maybe looking at a selection of the career of director Albert Pyun as well.
Sure. Yep. Definitely do that. I have to go back and watch those. I own a copy of Mean Guns. And actually, Mean Guns,
a deep dive on everything of his.
I have to say, Mean Guns doesn't hold up. I watched it with a bunch of people, and they go, "Why do you like this so much?" I'm like, I think it's inspired moments, like the moment when he's dumping the bullets down one side and the baseball bats and the bullets on one side and the guns down the other. That to me is fucking brilliant. That's one of the coolest things. I thought that is so brilliant. Yeah, we can definitely do that. We could watch We could watch Cyborg 2 with Angelina Jolie and Jack Palance.
Oh yeah, we got all kinds. Good ones. Got all kinds of stuff that's great.
Just not Captain America.
And not Captain America. Matt Salinger with fake ears, everybody. Yeah. Why didn't you just have blue? I don't know.
Yeah.
But other things, potential ones, certainly if not next episode, maybe the one after, basing this completely on a child looking at the box art in the mid 80s. A movie called City on Fire from 1979. And
Ice and Fire?
City on Fire.
City on Fire. Is that
the one called
Perret?
What's that? Yes.
Is that the Michael Perret one?
No, that's Streets of Fire.
Streets of Fire.
Very similar though. I believe it's about City on Fire is a Canadian production actually. It's not the Joe Lamb one, but it's about. I believe there's a name in it. I'm gonna say a poor man's Lee Majors or something like that, right?
That's Lee Horsley, isn't it?
Yeah, poor man. No, I'm just gonna put. It's a 1979 disaster film, so we know what we're getting into there. Barry Newman. There we go. The Barry Newman. Leslie Nielsen.
Barry Newman.
Yeah. Henry Fonda. Okay, so it's clearly your Canadian version of Towering Inferno or whatever, right?
Which one is A City on Fire?
City on Fire. Yeah.
I do vaguely remember this. Vaguely.
And, what is it? Ex-employee who here we go. Sabotages an oil refinery. There we go.
Yeah, we should do one of. I do know that one. We should do another one where do Jaws ripoffs and then one of the Star Wars ripoffs.
Oh, Orca, Grizzly, Sekunka.
Orca, Grizzly. I just want Tentacles.
Oh man, there's I mean, again, same with the Star Wars that you could do
Star Wars. I just watched a show on all the ripoffs that came off there and why they came off there. I was going to watch one the other day that had Cameron Mitchell in it. I'm just like, I'm not in the mood to watch something that shitty. You know, there's one that's actually really Battle Beyond the Stars. I think is actually
with John Boy. Yeah.
Well,
there's a few. Decent. Yeah, I just like the ones there's ones that are just okay. We got nobody in this, and it's a knockoff. But I'm always intrigued by the ones where we got Kirk Douglas, and we got they get a name to play.
Oh yeah, Saturn 3.
And it's like
the one with Cameron Mitchell.
Why would Kirk Douglas agree to do this, right?
Like, basically, they're just the script. Even two vagabonds travel around and are have to rescue an important person or something like that. I'm like Star Wars. Yeah.
And they save a boy. Oh, okay.
Yeah, save a boy. Michael Berryman. Michael Berryman one would be good too, because that way, he's somebody that you could probably get on and just say, hey.
He jumps genres too, so it wouldn't be just watching, 19.
Yeah, no, we could watch whatever. Just say, and he would like that. Like, there's one replace an SS officer, so do some real acting because that's what they got. That's what he wants. He doesn't want to just do horror all the time. So. They were reviewing these three films. Would you come and would you talk to us?
Oh, totally. I bet you would.
All right.
But we got George Eastman.
George Eastman, but still.
Yeah. And I did see him in something recently, Michael Berryman.
Oh shit. Yeah, he hasn't stopped working.
No, like and like I mean not an old one, but something relative, like really, really current. I'm like, oh, okay, he's still kicking. I know he's still kicking, but he's still
working. Yeah. I mean, last time I saw him, I think he had a very small part in Lords of Salem because they cut him and Sid Haig's stuff all out, and Richard Lynch died during that, so he's got no scenes in there.
He's I mean again, watching one based on the 8-year-old picking the box art. Cut and Run would be one of Berryman's.
Him and Willie Ames, yeah. Of course, classic Hills Have Eyes, which is the one he keeps plugging all the time. I'm like, yes, yep. Hills Have Eyes. When I met him, I was always going on about smoking in the boys' room, because remember he played the principal in the music video, and at the very end they stole his.
Yeah.
He's sitting.
No, he's one of those guys when you meet him, he just loves the acting, right? And he's not just.
Well, and such a sweet human being. Like, he goes, I get all my monster playing out on school or in work. He said, when I'm not doing work, I'm not monster. So, guy's huge advocate for animals and just. Anyway, sweet human being.
Come on,
anyway,
show,
I got to use the can, but this was fun. We can do it again Monday, Tuesday.
Whenever we load it up. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's take a look at a couple of films. Do you want to do the